Hello and welcome to the Caffeinated Business Report, where sharp minds, bold insights, and next level strategy meet. I'm your host, Chase, joined by my co host, Craig. And each week we break down what's working, what's changing, and what's coming next in the world of business, AI, and beyond. Whether you're a founder, operator, or just trying to make smarter moves in a fast changing world, this show is your filter for noise free, practical conversations that help you think clearer, move faster, and grow better. So, without further ado, let's jump into today's episode, human intelligence. Last time we talked about artificial intelligence and the applications to business and kind of in general. Today we're going to go a bit of a different direction in human intelligence. I know that we've both had a couple of conversations lately between the two of us as well as others talking about not just like AI tools, but actually what does it take to really utilize AI, and kind of building off something that we had said in our last episode. We think that the older generations are going to do a lot better with AI than the younger generations because of one simple thing, and that's soft skill development and soft skill utilization. So, in your opinion, when you heard that, like, what was going through your head when we were talking about that last time?
I was impressed that it was coming out of your mouth. So I'll start there. But no, I thought it was a very insightful comment. And the more I've had an opportunity to think about it, the more correct I think you are. That this bifurcation, if you will, is going to be based more on problem solving and communicating effectively, um, and not being able to problem solve and communicate effectively. Those are going to be your two areas. And I do see, to your point from our last conversation, I do see older generations possibly having an advantage but not understanding that that's their advantage, and I see younger generations not understanding that's their disadvantage and just not getting it. So it's an interesting area.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I mean, like we had talked about the hard skills for AI and understanding how it works, young people pick it up instantly. They're gonna super quick. As far as being able to utilize it correctly, there is that just decades worth of experience that I'd say probably around like millennials and up have an advantage because they grew up during a time where they could actually talk to people, and
Yeah.
you went outside and you were forced to go places and do things. But after COVID and a little bit before that, like, you didn't really have to. You could just kind of stay home or you could retreat, and everything became digital on your phone. So there wasn't really any like forcing of a development of a skill that you otherwise would have had plenty of time to develop.
Yeah, no, you're nailing it right on the head. I was actually in a meeting this afternoon with a group of community leaders and from everything from corporate, government agencies, nonprofit, and just a group and educational. I believe I said that as well, but nevertheless, a group of very influential and thought leaders. And what was interesting is no one was really having the conversation about, well, the conversation that needs to happen with AI. Not, oh, can I use it, or can I? No, how do you interact with this thing? And that portion really didn't come up. There was quite a bit of conversation around upskilling, because FGCU, which our local university, was there, as well as FSW, our other local university, and they both have innovation hubs that are really incredible. But the conversation about how to have a conversation with AI is just not even on anyone's radar yet. And I think that might be one of the biggest misses of this whole AI revolution, that is happening, is if people don't really refine those skills and understand how to break a problem apart and then be able to communicate.
Yeah. Well, so on that point, what do you think are the skills that people are missing? Yeah, because it sounds like it's just kind of across the board at this point. But what are those specific skills that people are missing that are required in order to actually effectively utilize AI?
Well, I can basically sum it up with two questions, and that is, number one, how do you solve a problem?
Find the facts.
Absolutely. And number two, what does success look like to you? If you can answer both of those questions, I think you're head and shoulders above the vast majority of even academia that believes that they're on the point of this, the tip of the spear, if you will, of AI. Yeah, if you can effectively communicate and really get your point across on how you want your internal vision, your mental vision to be expressed physically, if you can do that with words, and especially if you can, in this no code era that's coming up, if you can express that clearly, I think you're going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah, yeah, they're calling it vibe coding,
Vibe coding,
where it's
exactly, exactly.
ridiculous. They could have come up with such a better name.
Got to get in the vibe, man.
I it's ugh. I saw somebody had posted and I'll pose the question to you because I have my answer. Is it possible to be a professional vibe coder?
Yes.
How so?
Well, I'm going to liken this all the way back to my early days of web designing. Today you think about building a web page, and it's, well, you can actually speak it into existence with certain programs and applications. But that being said, just to make a basic web page with a couple of images and 400 words was $150. I mean, minimum $150. And if we had to do any extra graphics or things of that nature, double it. So here's something you can speak into existence within minutes today, which just, well, it's been quite a few years ago now. It cost you several $100s. And oh, by the way, I'll call you in 3 days if I'm almost ready. So I think I lost my train of thought. I apologize. What was the original question?
The question is it possible to be a
Oh,
professional
so
vibe coder?
so any rate, to that point, even within a few years after we started with at those very high rates, there were publishing platforms that were coming out. Anyone could develop or be a web designer, if you will. And I think there's going to be that same, whether it's a cottage industry that absolutely explodes before people realize that, vibe coding really is just effective conversations or effective communication. So yes, I do
Yeah,
think there's actually probably quite a big cottage industry. It's going to absolutely explode over the next couple of years, and then probably shrink equally as fast.
probably. There's gonna be a huge bubble because you have, I mean, at least seeing it now, you have so many people that are putting together so many different tools, and
Right.
you're like, it sounds cool, they look cool. Do you need them?
Right.
Do
Right.
you need the tools? Do they actually serve a purpose? Is it something that, one of these larger language models can do on their own that you really didn't need to spend the time building?
Or
So
equally important, will do on its own. Just because you have a
yeah,
good idea doesn't mean that you're the only one with that good idea. And in fact, the likelihood that you came up with it first is slim to none. Just to be very candid about it. But yeah, no, some of what we're discussing is inevitable in some of these large language models that are already so far advanced that, these little microcosms, if you will, of I'll call them sectors for the time being, they're just going to become inherently part of what you can do with every single platform. It's a race to equality.
yeah, everything's gonna be able to do everything. It just comes down to a matter of which interface looks prettiest to you.
And there will be, I mean, there are different personalities, as we discussed, a hammer and a screw, trying to put a screw in with a hammer. It's the same situation as you start understanding whether whether you want to use a Claude instance because it's SOC compliant, or whether you're not worried about that. You can use another, possibly a different platform, whatever it is. Those are the things that you are going to have to understand which ones actually fit the actual task that you need. But to your point, as far as functionality, it's a race to equality.
All the same.
Will be,
But so, what was that?
will be, they will be.
Will be. Oh yeah. So kind of going back to human intelligence side, when it comes to the soft skills that are needed to actually utilize these tools, how would you say you go about developing those soft skills? I mean, we've kind of covered creativity, we've covered critical thinking, we've covered problem solving, um, even just like research and analysis, just being able to read and actually analyze it. Like, how do you go about developing those skills? Because there's people who either A, don't have those skills, or B, they've kind of started to lose those skills because they're relying on AI mindlessly to do all of that for them.
Hmm. Well, I think it comes down to the individual. Either you want to do something or you do not want to do something. Don't get me wrong, you do need to be taught certain things, but these things aren't that difficult. How do you solve a problem? Find the fact. I mean,
Yeah,
that's that with that one question and understanding that that really is how you have to start with solving a problem. If you can actually just leverage that and keep that part in mind and not take that for granted, if you will, just because, like, yeah, we talked about this last time. Just because something can do something doesn't mean you should use it, or
yeah,
that it should do something. So same thing, just continue to sharpen the axe, if you will. But I think there's a big opportunity to help people solve problems and be able to think critically so that they can again come back all the way around, communicate effectively.
absolutely. So, where do you think curiosity plays a role in all of this?
Well, that's you're asking someone that loves shiny objects. So I'm a very curious person. I'm of the opinion that yeah, if you're not a curious person, you're halfway to you've got one foot in the grave. So I think it's absolutely critical that you remain curious and that you continue to want to learn. But that's really the key. You got to find something that you enjoy so that you really want to do it. But yeah, curiosity. There's without curiosity, there is no innovation. I mean, it just isn't going to happen. So
Yeah.
let me turn that around and ask you the same question.
Well, yeah, same. I think it's required. And I think thinking more on that, just kind of spitballing really at this point. Thinking about all the people who are afraid of AI coming to take their jobs. I mean, realistically, who is it that's most afraid of AI taking their jobs? It's the people that are kind of doing monotonous work, for the most part, repetitive work. Like they come in Monday through Friday, their tasks are largely the same, and it's kind of mindless to an extent. I think those are the people who might be the most afraid of AI taking over their work because now they don't have to. Well, now they're going to be forced to use their brain. They're going to be forced to be creative. They're going to be forced to be curious. Not that they aren't already to an extent, but even more so. And it's essentially AI is taking all the monotony out of everything, which is I think on one hand good because it saves you a bunch of time. Second, I think it also is that monotony is what drives boredom, and that boredom is what drives the desire for curiosity and creativity to an extent. So on one hand it's good. On the other hand, like you still need some sort of monotony and boredom in your life. Not that it should be like the goal at all times, but so I think it's going to be interesting to see. Kind of going back to your point, you have to want to. How many people are going to look at this change and then actually want to become more curious and become more creative with their solutions and really, how do you solve a problem? Find the facts in every situation. Because I mean, it's really going to come down to that. Are you going to be willing to do that, or is it not your job, and then you end up not having a job? So
Yeah.
it's kind of where my head goes.
Well, in all markets, the one thing that wins is efficiency. It always does and always will. So that being said, this is nothing more, when I say this, the AI, and we're talking about some of the monotonous tasks that are being automated as we speak. That's just efficiency. That's just progress that's continuing to move forward. Now, the question is how much human interaction and human intelligence is really needed to be able to guide those more efficient processes and refine them because now we have to measure and we have to go back and make sure that we're obviously producing a higher output using these tools. Just because you have a tool and you can use it doesn't mean you should. So you have to constantly be measuring, and that's where the human intelligence part comes in, and the curiosity. You've got to stay curious and make sure that the output that you're relying on is consistent, is always consistent, and that you're not getting any hallucinations anywhere along the way. Especially if we're talking about true AI and multimodal multi-agent type of platforms, you've got to make sure one doesn't automatically, or excuse me, accidentally infect another with bad
Right.
intelligence.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point there that you need to be able to point it out because at least a lot of the conversations I've seen online is that people are, one afraid it's going to take their job, whatever, and then two thinking that they can go ahead and just do like somebody who doesn't know anything about coding can just like vibe code their way to have something perfect. No, you're going to have something cool, but because you don't have that baseline understanding of coding to where you can actually point out the hallucinations and you point out the inefficiencies in the answer of the AI, like, plus, if you don't have that background context of information and knowledge, you're not going to be able to give it a better input. to be able to get a better output. So I think, on one hand, it's great because, utilizing AI is going to make people who can't do things do something with it, which is cool. But at the same time, you still need to actually take the time to learn the foundation of why these things work. So you can actually point out and be like, okay, well, this is wrong. This is not quite right. So if I fix these things, it'll be better. Instead of sitting there going like, "Oh, I gave it what I thought I knew, and then this is it," and just kind of like throwing your computer against the wall,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what's going on. But having that baseline context and understanding, I think, is still going to be very important. So it's not like you just use AI to replace all knowledge. You still, if anything, use it to help give you a baseline of the knowledge, so then you can point it out and show it like where it's wrong later.
That's what I used to tell people. You have to know enough to be able to call be able to pull the bullshit card. So you have to have the baseline baseline knowledge to be able to have a conversation to understand whether or not somebody else knows what they're doing. So absolutely, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the premise of how do you solve a problem, find the facts, where and when did you learn that? Because I feel like that's something it's so obvious, yet it's not obvious until it's pointed out. So how exactly did you go about learning that lesson? That's kind of like the crux of critical thinking and problem solving in a nutshell.
I have no idea.
Very nice.
Don't know, but I bet you can tell me where you learned it.
Oh, I learned it from some dude. I don't know,
Yeah, some
just
dude, huh?
some guy.
Well, whenever I learned it, I realized that really was the key to 99% of the challenges is just sitting down, find the facts, stop being emotional. Don't just because I have an opinion, everyone's got an opinion, but just because I have an opinion doesn't make it correct. So if you find the facts, break things down, it's amazing how much further you can get ahead rather than chasing ghosts, as we say.
Chasing ghosts. I like it. So what do you think are some of the things that, because we're looking at the fact that the older generations do have the advantage when it comes to the soft skills than the younger generation, what do you think are some of those things that the younger generation could do or avoid in order to help develop those soft skills that they otherwise wouldn't have had the ability to, that you did have the opportunity to?
Put your phone down,
Yeah.
shut up, listen. I'll stop
There
right
you go.
there. I mean, those are, if I have pet peeves and, and I'm very fortunate and yes, you can, yeah, this is a compliment to you. But you and your brother both, I mean, you both were balanced to most of the time. You were balanced in your approach to societal norms, if you will, and your generation's addiction to technology because it's all you ever knew. So it's been interesting, even though you guys are somewhat balanced. It's been interesting to watch your struggles, whether it be because of the social media that everyone seemed to have gotten fixated on, or whether it be because of some of the COVID era challenges that, especially for your younger brother and their generation, where they were boxed in for a couple of years and they lost the ability, or not the ability, the opportunity, excuse me, to actually develop some of those skills. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, I think in general that's probably not the complete answer to your question, but nevertheless, that's my thought on it.
No, I think it is. I mean, I'll condense it down even further. Go touch grass,
Yeah.
or just get out, go touch grass. But I think what's a good way to think about it too is that there needs to be a level of forced discomfort. It's because, especially after the COVID era, the fact that we were boxed in for however long it was. I mean, Florida, it was like 2 months. It was great. But everywhere else in the world, where it was like you had months, if not years, of just isolation almost. And it kind of taught you that, like, oh, okay, well, I can survive in isolation, not thrive. I can survive in isolation. That's okay. And now there's this level of acceptance of comfort where it's like, okay, if I can, it's okay to be comfortable all the time. No, no, it's not, because you don't grow inside of the comfort zone. You grow outside of the comfort zone. And so if you can lean into the discomfort more and more, so like put your phone down for 15 minutes. Like for me, like, because I used to scroll on social media all the time. First, I downloaded an app called Opal, which is like it blocked the apps, and I I couldn't use it as much. And if I did want to use an app, I had to sit there and watch this little flower open up for 30 seconds to try to like get me to forget about it. So I put my phone down. So start with that, and then you start getting into just deleting the apps off your phone. I'll re-download them every once in a while for like 5 minutes, but then I delete it again. So now it's gone to a habit where it's not always there. So the option's gone, right? So like kind of in the same frame of they're the option of just staying home. You have the option there. Get rid of the option. So force yourself to go out and touch grass. Force yourself to go to meet people. You just even like sitting out in public. You don't have to talk to anybody, but just like kind of like reintroducing a less isolated lifestyle, I think, would help a lot of these individuals because they think they're passing the time, they're chilling, but they're spending hours a day alone on their phone or streaming their TV, and it's killing them.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it's done to me mentally, and so I've had to course correct, and I get out now, and I've taken the things off my phone, and I try to just be so, even just like sitting somewhere. I don't have to talk to anybody, but just be in the area, and that helps to kind of build the idea back of like we're social creatures. Try to bring that part back.
Right.
So, but it's uncomfortable when you're in the beginning stages of like I don't want to go talk to anybody. I don't want to see anybody. I just want to do my own thing. Tough shit. Get out, go talk to somebody, say hi, compliment their shoes or whatever. They might think I'm weird. Kick rocks. I don't care. They can go kick rocks with those shoes. So just leaning more and more towards that discomfort, I think that's what's been lost over the past few years. So if we can kind of introduce that discomfort factor, the forced discomfort again, I think there's a positive trend there to be able to develop not only just like societal and mental health, whatever for younger generations, but being able to utilize AI to a greater degree because now you have more data on soft skills to be able to utilize the hard skills.
Very well said. Very well
Well,
said.
thank you.
I mean,
So,
not to go ahead.
no, no, go for it.
Oh, please.
No, I was just gonna ask, because I know you had that meeting today you had referenced before, and that's kind of what prompted today's topic. What was it about like the meeting that really stood out to you the most that kind of like prompted you to want to talk about all this today?
The human component. I mean, you're the point that you made on our last podcast about the hard skills and soft skills was just it was very insightful. Like I keep saying, and again, the more I've stepped back, the more I've been able to really think through what are some of the challenges businesses are going to have. Well, it really comes down to, can they communicate? Do they have the critical thinking that we've discussed over and over again? But do they have the ability to actually communicate it effectively? And whether that be with a computer, which is kind of what we're talking about, but at the same time, we're talking about getting outside. People don't have those skills, and yeah, it's just that conversation today, and not hearing that portion really being addressed, just drives it home for me that much more. That really is an area that I think there's a huge opportunity for businesses, and consultants, if you will. But I think it's also just a basic area where, for us to be good beneficial citizens, we should help people just and tell them that you really just need to be able to communicate with other people, and if you can do that well, you're going to be just fine in this new AI age of AI.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point, and I think I mean, did you have any other closing remarks you want to make on the topic? Because I mean, at this point, it's learn how to talk, learn how to listen, learn how to get what's in your mind into the mind of somebody else.
Yep.
Empathy, simple, critical thinking, things that we've lost. So I mean, like if you really want to be able to utilize AI well, develop those skills, and there's tons and tons and tons of videos online on how to do that and whatever. But I think the best way to learn is just to go through the fire and just go put yourself out there, go touch grass. But
Well,
um,
I think we've got a mutual admiration for a gentleman who's a behavioralist that he has a whole breakdown on when you walk into the room, and if you're thinking about how everyone's looking at you or not looking at you or talking to you or not talking to you, and they're engaged in other things, yep, who's really the narcissist? Or you,
yeah,
it's you. And that being said, it's not just the narcissist part, but the reality is everyone in that room is thinking the same thing. And that's the part I think we can probably help a lot of people get over, is that everybody's messed up somewhere, somehow, whatever. It's really just being comfortable with the fact that we're all in this together, to your point, and we just have to, the more we interact, the better off we're going to be.
Absolutely. What was it? It's the guy's three laws is everyone's broken, everyone's wearing a mask, and everyone's trying to convince you that they're not wearing a mask.
And
So
everyone,
funny.
all right, well, that's a good place to wrap up.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening to today's episode, going over human intelligence. Go outside, go touch grass. If you want to reach out to either one of us and ask us questions about this episode, or if there's any other episode topics you'd love to hear about, feel free to message us on LinkedIn, Chase Henderson, and then Craig Paceris Henderson. And until next time, take care. We'll see you on the next episode.